And I'm sure many of you guys heard the old saying, I need my car tuned. Well, you don't need to tune your car, modern day cars nowadays, because everything is electronic. You just need to service it at the whatever intervals that the manufacturer recommends. But when it comes to tuning, this is really what they mean by tuning your car. This is going to be like a 10-minute video on tuning your old school point distributor, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on if I'm doing this correctly or not. It's been a long time since I've tuned an old distributor with points system. So today I am working on my F-150 that I picked up for free on Facebook Marketplace. If you guys have been following this channel, you guys know I've been doing a lot of little tweaks here and there just to get it running. So one of the final things that I need to really address at this point is my ignition. So I had the carburetor built, I replaced all the plugs, I replaced the points and the condenser in the distributor, the rotor, the cap, and all of that. But it's just not idling, and it's not starting the way it should when it's hot or cold. So we're going to tune this thing with our Innova 5568A. This is their higher end tuner. This is a timing gun. It has lots of other features that I will go through with you guys. Alright, so let's go ahead and fire up the engine so you guys can see the struggle it has trying to fire when it's cold, and it's about 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's about 71 degrees. Let me start it one more time. So you can kind of hear the idling kind of rough. It hesitates. Alright, so I just want to note that when this is warmed up, it does idle fine. It idles around just under 600 RPM, between 570 to 590 is where it idles. So if you guys think I should increase the idle, let me know down in the comments. Again, this is a 71 F250, and this is a 360 FE motor, 5.9 liter. Alright guys, so we let the truck run for about a good 10 to 15 minutes, and we're gonna just check the temperature right now. It's around 213. That seems a little high. Well, it's coming down. Depends on where you point it, I guess. 166. So that's well within a normal operating temperature. In your Innova 5568, it comes with this little wire harness, and it's all connected. That disconnects from the gun itself. So within the actual wiring harness, you have basically 3 wires. You have your positive and your ground, and you have this one for your dwell. And this is where you're going to connect to your coil on the negative side of the post. This one is your actual sensor that goes on your number 1 spark plug wire. And on here, just remember to point the spark plug with this arrow in the direction of where the spark plug is. So that goes on your number 1 cylinder. On your Innova 5568A, again, this is their higher end model for timing guns. So here you have basically 4 settings. You have your volts, your advanced timing, your dwell, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Then your RPM for like your idling or whatever, if you want to set your idle correctly if you don't have a tachometer. So this is kind of nice to have. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this function button right here. That's going to toggle you through each of these 4 settings. So that's your advanced timing, your dwell. Once you get to the dwell, you can do a 2-cylinder, if you will. I think that's lowest. 2-cylinder, 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 12, so forth. So we're going to focus on the 8-cylinder right here, and that's going to give us our dwell angle. Then hit the function again, and that's going to run you over to the RPM. It's also going to give you a voltage and RPM both. So right now it's at 23 degrees. So we got on 8-cylinder. So we need to get it to at least 26 degrees. Between 26 and 31, I'd be happy with that. I think that's the reason why it's having a hard time starting when it's cold, is because the dwell is not set correctly. So I want to show you guys how to set the dwell. All right, so at the moment, I don't really care what the timing is because the dwell setting is not going to change as you adjust the timing here on the distributor. So we're going to go ahead and pop the distributor off, and I just use a simple flat screwdriver. Okay, and then you have one on the back side. Go ahead and pop it off. All right, so this is where we're going to spend our time right here today, is looking at the actual distributor. This is your rotor. And I did replace this. This contact point right here, it does wear out. So these are like under $4 on Napa. And this is your condenser. And then this is your actual points. And this is what we're going to be adjusting today. And to do this, you're going to want to get yourself a little feeler gauge like this. But I'll leave a link down below where you guys can buy these things for really cheap, under $5 on Amazon. By the way, I have my distributor loose. There's a bolt down below this distributor. There's a half inch ratchet, a wrench you'll need to loosen that up, and that holds down the distributor. So once you do that, you can turn your distributor like this. So if you guys look kind of carefully on this centerpiece right here, there are 8 points on the center part of the distributor that it turns as your crankshaft turns. So because it's 8-cylinder, there are 8 points. So for every cycle, it makes a connection 8 times per cycle. So and every time this little ridge touches your points right here, your point open and closes like this. So to get a feel for what your gap is, and I recommend just looking on internet to find out what that point gap should be. In my case, according to the internet, this thing should be 0.017 thousandths. So I'm not sure what it's at right now. So if you guys look carefully right here, as I turn this little the contact point is going to hit that one of those 8 ridges, and that point is going to open up. You see that right there? And it closes. Let me do it again. Open and close. So open and close. Okay, so what I recommend doing is just turning the distributor until you get to the highest point where that gap is open at its maximum. And then stick your feeler gauge in there. And you'll need one of these feeler gauge to see what the gap is. So I don't have a 0.017, so I got 0.06 in here. And I can tell you right now that that is way too loose. Way too loose, okay? It goes right in there without any resistance. But let me check 0.08, which is between 0.017. So there's a missing 0.018 right here. Let me slide this guy in there. And this is a little bit loose. So let me tighten this thing up and see if we can get it to 0.017. Now to adjust this, there are 2 flathead screws right here. You want to loosen these 2 up. Okay, and then if you guys look in the very back here where this contact is, there's a little triangle right there. That's a slot for your small screwdriver to just kind of sit in here. And as you twist this screwdriver, it's going to open and close that gap. So that's how you're going to make this adjustment. But again, make sure that your contact point is at the highest point on a distributor, and then make your adjustment. Okay, so there it is. Let me put my feeler gap in. Sorry, my hands are in the way. Okay, that feels pretty good right there. And then once you get it, hold this screwdriver in place. Don't let it move. And then tighten up the flat screw heads. Okay. And just snug. Now let's go back to the contact point right here, and to where the gap opens up at its highest point right there. Let's put our feeler gauge in there. Okay, this is 0.018. Okay, I do feel a little resistance, but not much. Let me grab the next size down, which is 0.016. 0.016. Okay. Okay, so that feels a little bit of resistance, so maybe that's right in the middle there. Okay, make sure these are snug down. Let's put our rotor back on and fire it up and see if we got it. And if your rotor moves, or if your distributor moves, not a problem, because we need to come back and set the timing anyways. Okay. Now, if we're so far out of spec, the engine's not even going to start. Alright, so after about 3 tries, I think I got it to where I wanted here. Let's go to the well, 8-cylinder, and we're at 26, or I'm sorry, we're at 27, 28. So we're well within the spec between 26 and 31, from my understanding. I can tell you right now, it just sounds way better. So now we got the dwell figured out. Let's go ahead and check the timing on this. Before you can start tuning your, or checking your timing, you gotta disconnect your advanced vacuum off your distributor and plug it. I'm just using my little handy bolt I keep around to plug that vacuum line. Alright, so you guys can see those 3 marks right there. Those are my my marks for when I turn on the timing gun. When I turn the engine over, you'll be able to see those marks really well under the light. And you see this little needle right here. So my goal here is to get this needle to be between this mark right here and the middle one. So for my engine, the consensus is that you want your base timing to be around 14 degrees, and then your vents timing anywhere from 28 to 34 is what I've been reading, and people recommend recommendations, and it's around 21, I believe it's 21 degree advanced timing. Alright, so it's going to be kind of hard to see for you guys, but I really want you guys to focus on my Innova meter. So remember those 3 lines down below? That's what we're going to be talking about here in this part of the video. So right now, I've got my instrument here, my tool, set to advanced timing. And I got this is your advanced timing setting, up and down arrow. And I'm going to set it to 0. Now when I look down there, that mark should be at the middle mark. That's my base timing, about 14 degrees. Okay, so I'm gonna look down there with my gun as my strobe is flashing. So remember the points that we just adjusted that goes around in circles, opens and closes? Well, every time that opens and closes, it shoots this beam of light down to the engine. Okay, it should be a steady light, but as you guys can kind of hear it too, it kind of stutters and hiccups. Okay, so if I look down there, it should be in the middle, and it's not. It's on the third mark. So let me back it off. About right there. That's about a 14 degree base timing for this motor according to the online census. Now if I turn it up to 14 degrees, when I look down there again, it's that little arrow should be pointing at the top dead center of my balancer. So let me look. No, just before it, so I need to advance it just a little bit. Okay, right there. Now keep in mind that distributor is spinning and it could be wobbling just a little bit. So, and that is super sensitive, that distributor, okay? Oh, let me bring it to 14. So right now, that's top dead center on my harmonic balancer. Let me go back down to 0. And that should be right in the middle of those 3 lines. And it's a little bit high. So let me bring it down a little bit. About right there. Okay. Now, according to online sources and everybody on the forums that I've asked, they said that they advanced their timing from anywhere from 24 to 32 degrees. So I put a third mark here for about 22 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and crank up my advanced timing to 22 degrees. And when I point the light down there, it should be on. It should be at the top dead center. And it's not. It's off a little bit. So I got to advance it just a skosh. About right there. Back off a little bit. Okay, right there is top dead center. Let me go back down to about 14 degrees base timing, and that should be at 0, and it's off a little bit. Okay, right there. If I go to 0, it should be at top dead center. It's off just a little bit. So you can see there's a lot of little finicky adjustments. I'm gonna go back to 14, and you're gonna keep doing this. You're gonna keep doing this until you're satisfied. Okay, that's top dead center. Go to 22. It's off a little bit. It's off a little bit, but that's okay. I don't care about performance. I just want to make sure the most important number for me is my base timing. And that's 14, and the harmonic balancer is right at top dead center. So right there is where I'm going to leave it. So I'm going to turn off the engine. While we're here, let's go and check our dwell angle real quick. And it's at 28. That's perfect. And as far as inspecting your spark plug wires, yeah, if you feel like you see some cracking on the actual wire itself and you feel like it's brittle or hard, definitely replace it. Another thing you can do is start your car up at nighttime and make sure it's like pitch black, and you might see some arcing. So if you got some bad wires, because there's a lot of electricity going through these wires right here, if you see any sparks, well, that's a good time to replace, not just that one wire, but replace the whole thing. If it's a whole, all the wires is a set, replace the whole thing, including your coil here as well. So my general rule of thumb is if you guys can replace this point, cap, distributor, all of that, replace your coil as well. Because oftentimes when these things go out, and it's really hard to tell when they go out, but sometimes they just, they lose performance. So just replacing this coil makes a huge difference. And again, you can buy these coils pretty cheap for around 25 to 30 bucks, depending on where you shop. So you can get this whole thing tuned up for under 50 bucks. And if you do that like every 30,000 miles, man, it's really worth it. All right, and then one of the last things we got to do is actually adjust the idle on the carburetor. So we're gonna go ahead and take the air cleaner off and do that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take this breather hose off. All right, guys, so the idle adjustment screw is actually back here. It's right underneath this transmission kick down plate right here, or this bar. I've heard a lot of people talk about adjusting their carburetors in the front. There are some screws in the front of the carburetor here, but you don't want to touch those. The idle screw is right here. Alright, so we're going to check the idle. It's at 490 something, 500. And I want it to be around 580. So right now I'm turning this clockwise. So right there. So once again, the idle adjustment screw is right here. Okay, on the back driver's side of the carburetor. It's a big fat screw. Nice.